Use your powers for evil.
Evil? Your evil is mine.
Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs, and very special day in the TARDIS today because in addition to my partner in time, Jesse Jackson, on my left as I look into the video screen, we have special guest companion Christine Peruski. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
You are. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, so Jesse, I'm gathering you and Christine know one another from a certain American Gods podcast, if I have that correctly.
Yes, and also Game of Thrones podcast. We have done both of those, and she actually, we're kind of excited. We may do an off-season Game of Thrones episode soon. Christine just sent a list of someone had compiled a list of every death on Game of Thrones ranked in version of sadness, which was pretty cool.
I don't agree with all of them, but...
No, I don't either.
Hodor at the top of the sadness list?
See, that's where we don't agree. He wasn't quite at the top. There was one above him.
Ooh, who's the one above him? Or is that a mystery? You want to make everybody listen to the podcast?
Oh, no. It was an old list. People probably already saw it already, but Princess Shireen was at the top of the list.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, yes. It's a good contender, but I didn't cry as hard for her. Sorry.
Yeah, she got a little extra crispy, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's worth discussing. Though I think Hodor was a little more tragic, and just because it also revealed the whole reason why he was called Hodor. So I thought it had a little more gump. But we're not here to talk Game of Thrones.
Spoilers.
We're not.
Yes.
Yeah, see, Christine, in case you can't tell, Jesse and I are really good at digressing.
Yes, we are.
I see that.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's kind of a thing on all my podcasts, so I kind of blame myself. But
No. And for this episode, I want to be Sir Jesse, Duke of Shakespeare.
Okay.
Just
in honor.
Not Sir Jesse of TARDIS?
No, not Sir Jesse of TARDIS.
Okay.
That is the Doctor.
All right. Well, as I said, we do have special guest companion Christine here. So, Christine, before we get into all the things we're going to talk about as we discuss the Shakespeare Code here, Christine, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, if you wouldn't mind, and give some background on your Doctor Who background, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay. Well, as we've said, I am on 2 podcasts with Jesse, the Roadside Attractions and Small Council Matters podcasts. And I tend to be the one who corrects everybody. So I get wonderful names like the Mistress of Correction or the Goddess of Correction. So you may hear a little bit of that today.
I approve.
Sorry.
I approve because normally I'm the one doing that with Jesse, as he can probably attest to.
Yes.
So good. I get to sit back and relax today. This is awesome. Nice.
Well, I don't have the grand Doctor Who knowledge that you have. I did a bit of a rewatch leading up to this, but I didn't get very far, and I have not seen very much classic Doctor Who. Just like maybe a half a dozen episodes.
Well, hopefully we can do something about that. But I'll try. We'll try. All right.
So, because I'm a huge geek, obviously, I of course heard of classic Doctor Who a long time ago from my geeky friends.
Right.
But I'm not much of a fan of shows from that era. You know, they hadn't really quite figured out shows yet, so there's a lot of things that just drive me nuts when I watch those shows. But when I heard that they were going to be doing a reboot, I was totally on board. So my first episode was Rose when it came out.
Nice. So you've been watching since 2005 or around there.
I have.
Awesome.
Pretty much as it airs, DVR.
So like Jesse, you're basically a new Who era person.
Yes.
See, I don't know if you've been listening to any of our previous episodes, but I'm an old school fan. So I was the one who got Jesse, who's been kind of like year after year going, Jesse, you really need to watch Doctor Who. And this was before the new series came out in 2005. So I've been like, come on, you'll dig it. You'll dig it. And finally, of course, when the new series came on, he checked it out after he watched Torchwood.
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
I did. I watched, Torchwood was my gateway drug.
Which is unusual, isn't it?
It is very unusual.
Very unusual.
I was listening to a podcast and someone made the argument that Captain Jack was really Malcolm Reynolds, and that and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And so I went to my buddy Ken Schaefer, friend of the show, and I said, I'd like to watch some of the I'd like to know more about Captain Jack. So he lent me his Torchwood episodes. I watched them, and then I said, I really like Captain Jack. Can you tell me what episodes he's on Doctor Who? And Ken says it's just easier to just start. So he gave me Eccleston's first season, and with Charles always saying, you'd like this, you could like this, I went, okay, let's go for it. And then I, just fell in love with the series, and as it continued, fell more and more in love with it, and it has truly been something amazing to explore this culture and these whole series. And so, so I'm right there with you. I originally had not gone through a lot of classic Who's, and when I did them, I did not find them necessarily very accessible. But one of the things Charles and I have done through this is, we've gone through, he selected definitely episodes that would work from a modern viewing point to get me acclimated, almost developing a taste for it, the same way you have to develop a taste for beer or wine or, something, a different kind of cuisine. And now then, my palate is wide enough that almost everyone he can get me, we enjoy. So that's, yes. That's Charles's evil plan.
I slowly worked my way into his brain and did a little tweaking, but when he wasn't looking. But no, thankfully he was willing to try out some Doctor Who, and the rest is history. So I'm slowly getting. He's not quite there yet, but he's kind of gotten into it, and he actually likes the third Doctor, John Pertwee. That's one of his favorites.
Yeah,
now.
So far I just have really been impressed. So so that's how you discovered. Do you have a favorite Doctor, Christine?
I cannot narrow it down to just one. I'm weird like that. I don't have.
Do you have Do you have a top two?
I have a top two.
Okay,
that would be Tennant and Smith.
Okay.
That's a good strong top two.
Well, yeah. Tennant grew on me. He didn't catch me with that first episode. He was kind of out of it for most of that first episode. But Smith had me with fish sticks and custard.
Yeah. I agree. I think Matt Smith definitely had a stronger first episode than David Tennant had.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. All right. Let's see. So, do you have a favorite companion?
That I do. And I haven't heard a lot of people agree with my favorite, and that is Donna Noble.
Nice.
Yes.
I'm a big Donna fan. And Jesse, not so much.
That's right.
Jessie, she is the most important person in the universe. The doctor said so.
Yes. I will tell you that
and she has the most heartbreaking ending.
Yes,
she does. Thank you. I'm glad we all agree on that.
And I also find the more I watch Donna, the more I appreciate her. And as you watch her, you get more and more the nuances of the performance. So yeah, she's, Martha is my favorite companion. So this episode already, I'm it started as a 10, and I had to look for reasons to downgrade it when we get to our score. But,
you can give an episode a 10. It's allowed.
Yes, I am. I have learned to appreciate the beauty of Donna, and I find great joy that you think of her as one of your favorites. I mean, that's just wonderful.
Well, one of my big, selling points for Donna is that she, unlike it seems like every other companion, is not enamored of the Doctor,
Right.
And I don't mean like in love. Not all of them are. I mean, obviously Bill's not, but it seems like their world revolves around the Doctor. But Donna, no, he's an equal. I mean, I think the one that really showed this is that they did a whole episode of the Doctor without her there because she just didn't want to go. And like he kept trying to convince her, let's go, it's going to be great. And she's like, no, I'm having a spa day. And not a single other companion would have done that. Not a single one of them would have said, you know what, I'm not going with you. No, the Doctor's going somewhere. They all have to be with him. They have to be with him. But Donna is like, this is my trip. And, I'll let you be my tour guide. But, if I want to stay back, I'm going to stay back. So she's her own woman, very strongly her own woman. And I love that.
Yeah, that was one thing that, as an old school fan, that we really like. Old school fans really like Donna because after Rose and Martha pining after the doctors, when Donna came along, she was much more of an old school companion because they weren't as romantically involved with the Doctor. They were just, they were companions. They hung out. They had their own lives. They would maybe get involved with somebody else, but definitely not the Doctor. They weren't just sitting there moon-eyed looking at David Tennant's spiky hair or Matt Smith's flippy hair. And,
they do have wonderful hair.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Yes, exactly. So, it was kind of refreshing, and I really like that about Donna, and the fact that she's very much a force of nature, and I like that about her, that she stands up for herself, and she knows what she wants, and doesn't really take. She isn't willing to just settle for the Doctor calling the shots. She can call her own shots, and I respect that.
And she doesn't expect him to fix everything. The first time in the Fires of Pompeii, she got kidnapped and she's tied up and they're going to sacrifice her. And she's just yelling at them. She's not saying he's going to come save. She does not mention the Doctor once. She just yells at them. And I loved it.
Yeah, it was great. Catherine and I was fortunate enough to meet Catherine Tate once, and got her autograph. So she's
nice.
That was great. That was great. So
is there anyone you haven't met?
Yes, there's plenty of people I haven't met, actually. So I finally got to meet my first Doctor, believe it or not. I've met
he was your first?
Yes, he was my first, and that I met in person. So yes, I'm no longer a Doctor Who convention virgin in that way. Thankfully I got to meet David Tennant in person at
and
Wizard
he's
World
rubbing
Cleveland.
it in our faces, literally.
Yes. Showing up the autograph, yes.
Yay!
So, I missed my chance to meet him at Wizard World Columbus last year, so I was desperate. So my wife Lori and we drove 2.5 hours, and we're up to Cleveland, and we're just like, okay, this has to happen. This is a must. And so thankfully we got to meet him. Very nice guy in person. Thankfully, he's not one of like when you meet your hero, sometimes you get let down. But
I see what you did there.
Thank you. Despite the large crowd of people waiting for signatures from him, he took his time with us. He didn't try to rush us through the line, and I got to my wife Lori got to thank him for introducing her to Doctor Who because that's her Doctor. Nice. And then I got to thank him for doing the Big Finish audios, coming back and reprising his role of the 10th Doctor with Billy Piper and Catherine Tate for Big Finish. So that was very cool. And then I got to say how much I'm looking forward to him in Good Omens as Crowley, which, I'm a big Neil Gaiman fan, and I loved Good Omens. I have it in the original first printing hardcover, And
Nice.
just, I've loved that book. And so once I found out they were adapting it, and it's going to be in the BBC, and then also here, I believe, on Amazon Prime. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And I think it's great casting to have Tennant as Crowley. So, and then I got to see him and Billy Piper in a panel later, which was very fun. And that was cool. Very, very nice.
Very nice. I don't know if you guys saw, it's so easy to get. I don't think it was on Twitter, it was on Facebook, but a mutual friend, Emily, posted a picture of her, Tom Zoller, and Neil Gaiman. And Emily has been involved in Discworld, the convention. And so I could not resist. I posted, "Wow, you met Tom Zoller? I can't believe it. How exciting." Oh, yeah, and that guy from the comics, that Sandman guy from comics. And she replied back, "Yes, I have met Tom, and I tried not to fanboy. And, yeah, that Neil guy was okay, too." So, yeah.
Very nice.
Yes.
All right. So as promised or threatened, depending on your point of view, we are going to talk about the Shakespeare Code here in episode 107. Christine was kind enough to select from a choice of 3 possible episodes, and this one she seemed more inclined to go with, so we're more than happy to talk about this. Jesse and I, big Martha Jones fans, so this is a win for us, but you, not so much. You're not that big of a Martha fan, as I understand it.
No, I'm not, but we'll get to that later in one of our topics.
That sounds great. So that sounds great. Let's tease that a little bit.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So, let's just do a quick general overview before we get into the meat of the discussion. This is written by Gareth Roberts, who wrote other stories, The Unicorn and the Wasp, The Lodger, Closing Time, and The Caretaker. So definitely a writer. And he's also written a number of Doctor Who novels, including The English Way of Death, which is a really good one that Big Finish adapted. And so I definitely recommend checking that out. Really good writer, in my opinion. I loved Unicorn and the Wasp. That's one of my favorites, and which is also a Big Donna episode. Directed by Charles Palmer. Charles Palmer, no relation. Smith and Jones, he directed. He also directed Human Nature / The Family of Blood, Oxygen, and The Eaters of Light in the most recent season, Series 10. And this was the second episode of Series 3 in 2007. So, of course, starring David Tennant, Freema, Agyeman. And we had a couple of notable guest cast members in this one. We had Dean Lennox Kelly as Shakespeare, William Shakespeare. If you don't know who William Shakespeare is when I say Shakespeare, that you need to really do some homework.
Or leave. Just leave. You're not welcome here.
Yeah, exactly. Just get off our planet. You're no longer welcome. He was on some episodes of Being Human, the UK version. He was in the 2009 Robin Hood series, and he was in the miniseries Fleming, The Man Who Would Be Bond.
Who was he in Robin Hood?
I'd have to look it up. I don't think it was anybody notable. Yeah. So, yeah. Unfortunately, my knowledge only goes so far. So, and then we also had Christina Cole as Lilith, one of the Carrionites, the lead Carrionite in this role. She has a cameo in the Bond movie Casino Royale as the receptionist when Daniel Craig's Bond checks into his Bahamas resort. So she's in that. She's also in the movies Jupiter Ascending, and she was on an episode of the late lamented Human Target TV series, which I really liked. So, and then we also had Chris Larkin, who played Lord Chancellor Linley. He's the guy who gets his lungs filled with water and drowns in the middle of the street.
The master of the rebels.
Yeah, exactly. So he was in the movies Valkyrie with Tom Cruise and Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World. So a few notable cast members. So, yes.
David Tennant has quite the history with Shakespeare himself.
Yes, and I think that's a great opportunity that you so subtly worked in there. I like how you did that.
Well, the doctor is a big fan of Shakespeare, and I think it may be because Tennant has done a little Shakespeare himself. He played Hamlet in the 2009 Royal Shakespeare Company's TV movie. He was also Richard II in their 2013 TV movie. And he and Catherine Tate, my beloved Donna, were Benedict and Beatrice in 2011's Much Ado About Nothing. So,
nice. And I love that play.
Yeah, and Charles, wasn't the reason why we did not get a full season and we got the series of movies is because he was doing the Royal Shakespeare Company?
Yeah, that was in 2009, so he's probably filming Hamlet. So that would work about the timeline. That would actually work pretty well because that was with Patrick Stewart, I believe. And I actually watched that. I actually watched that on television, and that was really good. I liked that a lot. Very interesting Hamlet because it was set, almost had a more modern feel to it. It wasn't the costuming wasn't as traditional in that production.
I saw just a scene on YouTube when I was looking into this, and it was weird. He was wearing like a suit, dress shirt, no tie. And he was in a very empty, big room. So it was very confusing.
Yeah, it was. I totally agree. That now, the Globe Theatre. I've actually been to the Globe Theatre in London.
I hate you.
My wife and I actually got tickets, and we watched Henry V there. And yes, the seats are as uncomfortable as you would think because they basically tried to reproduce it as faithfully as possible because the original one burned down, I believe, and probably in the Great Fire of London. I don't know, but yeah. So this is a reproduction that they reconstructed, and this is the same Globe Theatre where they filmed this episode, The Shakespeare Code. So this is one of those like, okay, they filmed here. We have to go to this. And
sure, I can see that.
I'm familiar with that.
But
I did a Dresden Files trip to Chicago myself, so I understand.
Yeah, and they definitely promote Tennant as one of their lead actors that have performed Shakespeare, which I think is very interesting. That they have the pictures up there. And, a nice little, not really a plaque, but it was just more of a presentation, like a display, showcasing him as one of the more notable actors to perform Shakespeare. So very cool. If you get a chance to check it out, definitely recommend it.
Good. Very nice.
I hope I do.
Yeah, please do. All right. So let's dive right into the big discussion, unless there's anything else you want to talk about before we get going. All right. Didn't want to rush you. So let's talk about topic number one. Do you want to read it, Christine, since you're more theatrical?
Oh, sure.
All right. Do you have it right there?
I do.
All right. Yeah, go ahead.
The time is out of joint. Oh, cursed spite, that ever I was born to set it right.
Nice.
Hamlet, Act 1, Scene 5. And this is about the 10th Doctor and Shakespeare.
Yeah. So I want to get everybody's thoughts. Very nice, Christine. Very well done. Like that.
I do too. Very nice.
So I want to get everybody's thoughts on, obviously, the 10th Doctor in this story, introducing Martha, taking her on her first trip, and he's hooking up they get involved with Shakespeare, who the Doctor sees as something of more of a not really contemporary, but just a peer, in the sense that he's more of an intellectual, and the psychic paper doesn't work on him. So I want to get your thoughts on those two characters interacting and what you thought of the 10th Doctor in the story. So, Christine, why don't you start off? We'll go from you, and then we'll head to Jesse. Let's see what you guys think.
Well, the Doctor is definitely a ridiculous fan of Shakespeare, and I can't blame him. Of course, sometimes it's not the best idea to meet your heroes. His first impression of him was a bit shattering. He expected brilliant words to come out of his mouth, and it was gutter talk. But on the spot in front of a crowd, of course, his fandom built right back up after having a nice conversation with him, realizing that he really is as intuitive as he seems, and seeing things that a normal person wouldn't see. He could look at the Doctor and he can tell how old he is, and he can tell that Martha is completely clueless about him. He's a mystery to her, even though they arrived together. And even in the end, he's been able to figure out that the Doctor is from another planet and that Martha is from the future. So he is as smart as they say he is, and he's just constantly surprising and delighting the Doctor. And I love the weird reversal of adoration, because people are usually like enamored of the Doctor, and now we get to see him acting that way about someone else. I loved it.
That was great. Yeah, they seem to have really good chemistry, I thought. All right, Jesse. So do you have some thoughts on the Doctor and Shakespeare?
I do. I did a little research and read that Russell T Davies specifically did not want them mentioning that in the past Shakespeare has come up before, and that the Doctor has talked about helping him and writing, and so you could kind of make the argument that this was the first time they had met him, correct?
Yeah, they've made mentions.
Yeah.
The Doctor would say, well, yeah, Shakespeare and I did this.
Yeah.
And they had way back in the William Hartnell era, the first Doctor era, they had one scene where the Doctor is watching Shakespeare on what's called a time-space visualizer. So they've teased him, but they've never actually introduced him as a character until this episode.
Yeah, so I thought that was great. I loved the interaction. I think it's amazing that he doesn't disappoint. He is very smart. He is very clever. I love the running gag of, oh, that's pretty good, as Tennant the Doctor is quoting him, and then later he quotes like Tennyson, and the Shakespeare's like, oh, and he goes, no, that's not yours.
Yeah.
Which was kind of just a really sweet thing.
No plagiarism when you're time traveling.
Yes, exactly.
That doesn't turn out well.
Yeah, so I was really happy with this and that interaction. I love it when the Doctor meets someone that he respects. Because, the Doctor's a little bit of an arrogant,
no,
jackarse at times.
Arrogant.
And so,
how dare you?
It's not arrogant when you can back it up, Jesse.
Well, I know. So it is lovely to see. I'm not saying he's a total jack about
is that
it.
like it's not
Yeah.
paranoia if they're actually out to get you?
Exactly. Yeah. So this was just, and this was one of my. I remember watching this the first time, just loving this episode, and I was very happy to see that there was no disappointment at all, when I saw it this second time.
All right, sounds good. So, I totally agree. I thought Dean Legs Kelly did a really good job as Shakespeare. He's very charismatic and charming. Has great chemistry with both Freema and David. There's even a little bit of flirting with the Doctor toward the end there, which I thought was really interesting. And I thought where the Doctor says, well, there's 5,000 academics threw their
57.
57, something like that. Yeah, 57. Punch the air or something like that. And at that, so I thought that was rather interesting, and I enjoyed that. I thought it was very cheeky. And then, obviously the nods, just the little Shakespearean in-jokes. If you're a Shakespeare buff, you had to be laughing at some of these because some of them are so clever. And I thought credit to Gareth Roberts for just writing such really subtle in-jokes.
Oh, I agree. Just really well done.
Yep, totally agree. All right, so if we don't have anything else, let's move on to topic 2. And Christine, you want to treat us to another reading?
Swift as a shadow, short as any dream. Midsummer Night's Dream, Act 1, Scene 1.
Excellent.
Yeah,
And this is about Martha's first trip and unrequited love.
I want you to be on every episode and always read the topics.
Yeah,
telling you.
You have a great delivery.
Yes, you do.
So
Well, you know, I do. I've recorded an audiobook and working on a second one. I do all the female voices for these books, and it requires a lot of different voices and accents. Actually, the last chapter I recorded, I had to watch some Torchwood because I was looking for a unique sound, and I realized that Welsh is just enough different from English to make the character sound different from the other character in the chapter who is English, to make her sound different. And but similar enough that I never noticed before that Welsh accent was different until I started listening hard.
Oh, it is.
So I did Gwen Cooper.
Oh, very nice.
Nice, very nice.
Yeah, she has definitely a thick brogue in that regard. That her dialect is just very tricky at times, I think.
So I am curious if you want to talk about during this point why you don't enjoy Martha perhaps as some other companions.
Well, the truth is, it's not that I don't like Martha. It's that I don't like what they do with Martha.
Okay.
I
mean,
agree.
she's a fine character. She's very smart. I mean, she's becoming a doctor herself.
Mm-hmm.
But this episode kind of starts with the doctor saying, "I promised you one trip and one trip only." And thus begins the rebound storyline. And I'm not a fan of watching this. Like, even Shakespeare at the end spotted that and said that the doctor may never kiss her. And this hurts her. Like, there's this whole scene, the awkwardness of the bed. She's hyper aware of the two of them sharing such a small bed, and he doesn't think anything of it. I mean, I may be wrong, but I've never noticed anything about the doctor or the companions sleeping. You know, we've never really seen them go to bed. We've never seen them just get up. We never heard them mention, "Oh, I had a rough night." It's just, there doesn't seem to be sleep normally.
I know that Amy and Rory talked about their bunk beds and complaining about their bunk beds.
Okay.
But
I mean, like,
I agree with that. It's very rare. The doctor, as far as we know, never sleeps.
Yeah. So having this scene is like super awkward just because we never include overnights, you know? So it's there just to emphasize this unrequited love story. And just to add the knife twist, he brings up Rose while they're sharing the bed together.
That's just cruel because you know,
the whole thing
you never
is
want
cruel.
you never want to bring up the ex.
Yeah. And
you have someone with you. It's just, you know, it's cruel. And the doctor, okay, generally the doctor is asexual. He tends to tune this out. He's obviously thinking of other things, other Time Lordy things. Is often clueless. Matt Smith's doctor was perfect at that, how clueless he was about people around him.
Oh, yes.
That being so unaware, blissfully unaware. And that, he just, normally he's that clueless, but you think he would be at least a little more sensitive.
Oh, no. And it's not just that, too. Speaking of Rose,
Mm-hmm.
he's taking her on a Rose rerun. His first 3 trips with Rose were to the end of the earth,
Right.
Charles Dickens, and then New York. Well, obviously he can't take Martha to the end of the earth, or Charles Dickens specifically, but Shakespeare is another author that he's a fan of. And then after this episode, he takes her to New York. He's just like rerunning Rose's trips with him, and it's just not right. So
Martha did call him out on that, though.
She does. She calls. I think
Thankfully.
It was in the next episode. At the end of the next episode.
I think it was in Gridlock, when they were in New York.
Mm-hmm.
New York. It's like, wait, you brought her here or whatever, and
yeah. So like she calls him out on it, but that's the only time she's aware of that she's on a rerun. She doesn't even realize that Shakespeare is basically a rerun of Charles Dickens. and of which he can't do again because he's already been to see Charles Dickens, so he can't see him again, even in another part of his life, because that would really mess things up, right?
Yeah.
So at least not with that face on.
So did you like Martha? Did you like Martha in series 4 when she returned?
Yes, actually, when this whole rebound storyline is over, when she has left the doctor and she
Right.
comes back, she is great. In fact, most of the time I don't have a problem with Martha. It's just that she's the rebound girl comes up over and over again through her whole series. And
Right.
I don't want to watch that. I think most people don't want to watch that. It's not even tragic. It's just pitiful. Nobody wants to be pitying someone.
One of the things Jesse and I have been talking about when we talk about Martha is that it seemed very unfair to the character, because here you have a bunch of distraught Rose fans that were watching the show, and they were mad that Rose was gone, and here's Martha in her place, keeping the doctor away from Rose. And so there was that kind of it kind of set the table for a little resentment toward Martha, I thought, especially at the time.
Yeah, and then just bringing it up over and over again doesn't help.
Right.
I feel like Martha could have been treated better. That's why I don't like watching the Martha episodes, because she's not being treated nicely, and I don't enjoy watching that.
All right, at least the series 3 episodes.
Yes. Got
it. Okay. So I want to talk about Martha's first trip here, and kind of get some perspective on, this is her first trip through time. Although she had an adventure in Smith and Jones, but here she's finally, traveling through time, having an adventure, and she's meeting Shakespeare. And Jesse, I want to get your thoughts on what you thought about Martha's first trip.
So, you have to remember that I'm watching this way back in, I guess this is 2006?
Yeah, this is 2007, yeah.
Yeah. That this is the modern era had not changed companions yet. So, and I already had a problem kind of as a viewer. Why is he picking up these strays that, we later get it called? So it made sense to me to him to kind of, okay, I'm just going to do this once. I'm not looking for another, I don't want another pet. So that made sense to me, because the doctor he loves to show off, yet at the same time he doesn't want to get attached to, quote unquote, another human. I don't need another companion. So I really like this. One of the reasons I like Martha as a companion is that she's a doctor, and she seems to be more self-sufficient than especially Rose. And I know you just talked about, Christine, about Donna being, very independent, but I always felt like Martha was too, and that's one of the reasons I liked her. I felt like she was bringing her own set of skills and knowledge. In fact, in this episode, when the doctor says, I'm a doctor, and Martha says, so am I. So I was really glad to see that. I loved her questions about time travel and paradoxes, because I think those are realistic questions to ask if you're on, okay, do I need to worry about changing things? And I love how the doctor treated her like, oh, you rookie. So I loved everything about this. I loved her worrying about being, a different color, and her concerns about just being in the past. And I just am a big Martha fan, and I'm okay with the whole kind of feeling the affection she has, because I think that was the story they wanted to tell at the time, that they tried to imply that the Doctor felt things about Rose, and now then because of her being gone, he's kind of pushing himself off, and because he is the most interesting man in the world, it would make sense that someone would want to hang with him and be attracted to him. So I loved everything about this companion. I love seeing her interact with them. I love the whole Harry Potter jokes and the idea about magic, and the Doctor explaining that what you call a voodoo doll might really be just a neural manipulator. I just think this is awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I thought you brought up a good point because, this is essentially the first time we've had a black companion in the past. So this is the first time that issue has come up on Doctor Who. Obviously, we've had Bill since then. We had Mickey, but Mickey never got to go back to the past, so it was never really an issue with his character.
Did this not happen in the classic Who?
No, there were no black companions. I want to say African American, but they're not Americans.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not.
So black. So there were no black companions in the classic series. So this is So this is a big breakthrough for Doctor, because this was like the first black lead, co-lead, in the show with the Doctor. So. So something like this had to be addressed because, you don't want okay, we're traveling and then, oh, look, my companion's being carted off to be shipped off to America or wherever. It's not a good sign, so not a good thing. So.
And they addressed that in the Peter Capaldi era too, when they kind of do a hand wave on why there's more diverse casting in the modern Who, because they said, well, history kind of cleans it up. If I could put you back in the TARDIS or the Wayback Machine, Charles,
it's an old school reference Jesse likes to throw out.
Yes, I do. Do you? And I realize in 2007 there was not the internet presence, but what do you remember a sense of? Was this kind of matter of fact that it was a person of color being a companion, or was there a little bit of the same kind of both excitement and possibly grief that Jodie's getting as the new Doctor?
Thankfully, as I remember from 2007, way back, yes. Thankfully, no, there wasn't. I mean, I'm sure there was, little pockets here and there on the interwebs, but I don't remember it being that much of an issue. Thankfully,
good.
like it is today, which kind of is a kind of a sad commentary on how we've kind of digressed as a society, because now it seems like, that would be a major issue that people would have problems with, which is kind of a step backward, and it's very frustrating. But yeah, so thankfully, you had concern, but thankfully Freema was pretty well received. I think, if anything, she was more criticized for being Rose's replacement, and I'm using like the Dr. Evil quotes, replacement.
Yes.
That she, it's just that she was almost like the usurper to Rose's position, even though it's like, hey, Billie Piper chose to leave. It's not Freema Agyeman's fault. So get off her back.
And I think you could make a lot of, before Gil and Andy, before Amy, I think by far Rose was the most popular modern companion.
Yeah, definitely.
By having her come back to the 50th anniversary just shows that even more. Okay, well, that's good. Thank you, Charles. As always, appreciate the
I live to serve.
I know you do. Thank you.
All right.
Maybe it was just me. Maybe I got a lot of, before they even started the reboot, I heard a lot about how, companions would come and go, the Doctors changed, and so when Rose was leaving, I was like, okay, whatever. Also, I watched a lot of English shows, and that seems to be a thing over there. The cast changes a lot on a lot of British shows, and I forgot who was talking about it. Maybe it was Peter Capaldi. I don't even remember, but they were complaining about how much work being on a TV show for so many seasons is, and I'm like, what? Supernatural, 13 seasons, same actors. What are you talking about? And they do 22 episodes a season.
Right.
You're nuts.
America has a different work ethic when it comes to, this type of thing.
Yeah.
I think there's just so more afraid of being typecast in the UK, because over there, yeah, you're lucky if you get the same actor playing the same character for more than 3 seasons or series. And it's more of a like, they want to be chameleons. They want to just go from role to role to role. Over here, they're like, well, I've got this great gig as this character. Like, well, yeah, I'll be, even the British actors come over here and they're more inclined to stay on American shows. Like you have like the Game of Thrones cast. I mean, they've put in several seasons, but
well, one would hope they're contracted, right?
Yeah, exactly. But my point is that like you probably wouldn't have had that show last as long if it was a UK production.
Right.
And
I had one more note about Martha in this episode that I actually really approved of. See, when Rose went to Charles Dickens' time, she went and changed her clothes to blend in with the surroundings, even though the Doctor never does that. The Doctor's like almost always wearing his own clothes.
Yeah.
And Martha didn't even ask that question. She asked tons of good questions about time travel and her being black in, that time period. Didn't say anything about changing out of her jeans and her leather jacket. This just didn't occur to her. And, he was wearing a suit, so she was going to continue wearing her clothes and didn't even notice it. And I loved that. And nobody brought it up either.
Yeah, because maybe just they thought she was a performer or something on the stage. So that it was a stage costume of some kind. But you would think, that leather jacket she was wearing might get some attention.
And yes, that is a great leather jacket. Didn't they mention the strange clothes once?
Shakespeare said that they were rather fitted.
Okay.
Yes. Well, we know it. We know what's going through Shakespeare's mind.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Shady Shakespeare.
Yes.
All right. So let's move on to topic number 3. And Christine, you want to treat us to one more? We don't have to pay you, do we?
No, not this time.
All right. Next time.
First taste is free.
If you're a professional, yeah, I understand.
Double, toil and trouble.
Ooh, nice.
Yes, Macbeth, Act 4, Scene 1. And this is about the Carianites and magic.
Yes. Yes. So I like that little witchy effect you gave. That was great. All right. So, obviously the Carianites. This is the first time we've really had kind of witch-like aliens on Doctor Who, because it's Doctor Who. They can't just be witches. They're going to be aliens that sort of act like witches. And because magic and on Doctor Who is always an interesting thing, because generally it has a scientific explanation for it. Again, like it's alien, or there's some scientific principle behind it. Maybe it's like, a technobabble kind of thing, but generally, there's some rational explanation. And the Doctor obviously is here when he's confronted with the Carianites' magic, and he's very, skeptical. He feels that there's something more to that. So I want to get everybody's thoughts on the Carianites and maybe the Doctor's skepticism as well of magic. So I'll let you, Jesse. You want to go first this time?
Okay. I love that often witches are in a triangle treat, power of 3.
Right. A trinity.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
And it was so it was good to see them. I, of course, always feel bad for the cold open victim that often happens in Doctor Who, where we get somebody who dies horribly.
But that's what makes it so great.
I know, no, it is. I just always feel
kill
bad
the expendable
about
character.
Yes.
Yay!
Don't watch any police procedurals, because that's how every episode starts.
Yes. So I think the one of the actresses actually was in Suits. I believe Christine Cole.
Yeah,
who
there was
played
Christina
Lilith.
Cole. Yeah, she
Yeah.
was in Suits. Yes.
Yes, and so it's always nice to see they were a fun villain. I loved the idea of power of words. So they looked creepy enough. They're beautiful, and then she kind of shows the whole voodoo, yet really there's an scientific explanation for it. Was well done. So yeah, I think they were great villains, and you wonder if will they ever break out of that globe and we'll see them again.
Yep.
Ooh, interesting thought.
Yeah, we do get to now. Haven't seen them on television yet, which I think is a crime because I think they would be great. I'd love to see them against the 13th Doctor. I think that would be really interesting.
Yes.
Jodie Whittaker, but they have Big Finish did audio recently with them where they
nice.
go up against the 6th Doctor, Colin Baker.
Nice.
And his Doctor is a very verbose Doctor who loves the sound of his own voice. So it's a great pairing. So check that out if you would. So Christine, what do you think about the Carrionites in this one?
Well, my favorite subgenre is fantasy, and magic is the staple of fantasy. And I mentioned before that I am a big geek. I used to LARP, and that's how much of a geek I am. And it was there were a few spells at the LARP that required a character's true name. It was very important, true names, and there's always been this. It's an old concept, the power of words, and one that I love. That there's power in what you say, which is true in a sense, even in our world. So I loved everything that came from these witches. I love, the fact that they are our traditional Halloween idea of witches, and there's probably a reason for that. I mean, I'm sure that the Carrionites have slipped through and made themselves known in our world before, and that's where the myth comes from. And I love that they speak in verse. It's just wonderful. I wish I could do that,
just off the cuff.
Yeah, improv verse whenever I feel like it, but I'm terrible at that. I actually was there was a session of a role-playing game that we had where we had to talk like that. It was a Buffy game, and there was a demon like Sweet that Sweet made everybody sing, but this one made you rhyme, and I barely spoke the whole time. I couldn't come up with any rhymes. So
what just do what the Doctor did and throw out Harry Potter quotes.
Those don't rhyme.
I know. Well, just end it with a Harry Potter line.
Yeah. Sure, just
throw out an Expelliarmus every so often.
Yeah.
Oh, that was brilliant. I loved that.
Expelliarmus.
Yes. And I also love the line about the seventh book, because at the time the name of the seventh book had not been even the name had not been released. But
the Doctor's kind of like, I've read the seventh book already. You haven't because you're not a time traveler like me. So,
yes. And I love his whole JK. But I always think of that, Christine, when I'm reading DC Comics. When the demon is around, Charles will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
There is a character that
it's called
Etrigan.
Etrigan the demon, and his entire speech pattern is in verse. So
wonderful.
His iambic pentameter is strong.
I remember the first time this episode aired, and he said that thing about book 7. Wait until you read book 7. Oh, I cried, and I thought. Yeah, that's an easy guess to make right there.
Yes, that is. Yeah.
Well, of course we're going to cry. Half the people are going to die. I could tell you that. And I hadn't even read it yet. So,
Well, I thought, with the Carrionites being essentially witches on Doctor Who, one of the reasons I chose the Macbeth quote here was because, they're featured in Macbeth, and they do that double, toil and trouble line. And so... Again, this is another Shakespearean nod to have Shakespearean character villains in this episode, which I thought was a rather clever idea.
Well, yes. I mean, inspiration has to strike from somewhere, right?
Exactly. Well, yeah.
Like
well,
life experience.
As a writer, I know you lift from the best where you can get it, and try to get away with it as best as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the original idea I came up with. Then yeah.
Jesse, I'm not sure because I didn't write it down, but I think the voodoo doll, he said it was a DNA replication module.
Yes.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
Or us geeks might just call it sympathetic magic.
Yeah. Or a fetish doll. Which is essentially what that was. It was a fetish doll. If you know anything about the magics, yeah. I thought they were great. Just love the fact that they've trotted out the traditional witch artifacts, and they're flying on broomsticks and they're casting these spells and whatnot. And you even have a cauldron and the whole 9 yards that they're using to view everything that's going on. And it's great because you have the Doctor who's so skeptical about magic, and it was a good juxtaposition, I thought.
Magic is just technology we don't understand yet.
Yep. So
they say it in a lot of sci-fis.
Yep. Yeah. So basically, if we had someone from the future came back and had their technology, we might think, whoa, they've got magic because we don't understand
a sonic screwdriver,
yeah,
perhaps.
Maybe.
Or it's bigger on the inside.
Just a little bit. Yeah. So, all right. Anything else about this episode anybody wants to talk about before we move into favorite quotes? And Lord Almighty, we have a plenty of the quotes.
Oh, tons of quotes.
Yes. So anything else?
I love the idea that the weapon was words, because and very appropriate with William Shakespeare, and also with that very fits with the Doctor. Go back to when he's in the library, the world's we are filled by books, we have weapons all around us. So I just thought that was really well done, and a great kind of discussion. So, yeah, just great pick. I'm so glad we got to talk about this one.
Yeah, I am too. All right. So, Christine, I believe you have one or two quotes you'd like to treat us with.
4 or 20.
Or 20. 20,000.
I don't even know where to start. I've got so many. I'm going to start with my favorite.
Start at the beginning, end at the end, and then kind of fill up the middle somehow.
Aha.
That's what I recommend.
Okay. It's good advice.
Thank you.
So we kind of covered this one earlier, but I'll say it.
Yeah.
So magic and stuff, that's a surprise. It's all a bit Harry Potter. Wait till you read book 7. Oh, I cried.
That's a great quote. So, Jesse, do you have another quote?
Yeah, I did. And I really love this one when Martha Jones goes about the Globe Theater. It's like your police box. Small wooden box with all that power inside. And the Doctor, oh, Martha Jones, I like you. Because it just shares so much about, the Doctor being impressed by her intelligence, but also, complimenting and flattering his true companion, the TARDIS, just was, I thought, really well done.
Yep. I liked I'm a big fan of the butterfly effect. So when Martha brought up the butterfly effect in this story, this is one of the things I liked. Martha says, "But are we safe? I mean, can we move around and stuff?" And the Doctor replies, "Of course we can. Why not?" Martha replies, "It's like in those films. If you step on a butterfly, you change the future of the human race." The Doctor replies, "Then don't step on any butterflies. What have butterflies ever done to you?" So, great stuff.
Yeah, I do. I love that.
So
that was one of mine.
Just don't do it. All right. So, Christine, you got another one?
Okay. Follow up on the Harry Potter one. This is a long one.
Yeah, good. I'll sit back and get comfortable.
Close up this din of hateful, dire decay, decomposition of your witch's plot. You thieve my brains, consider me your toy. My doting doctor tells me I am not. Foul carrionite spectres, cease your show. Between the points, 761390, 761390. Banished like a tinker's cuss, I say to thee, Expelliarmus! 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 Good old JK!
Nice.
Yes. Yay. Yay.
Well done.
Yes, nice
Very
long
nice.
one, but
No.
it made me love this episode first time through. The good old JK, that Expelliarmus was, basically disarming them.
Yeah.
You gotta do it. You have to do it in the Tennant squeaky voice. Good old JK.
Yes. I love this, because the big plot in Shakespeare in Love was that, men performed on stage, not women, during this time period. And Martha going, those are men dressed as women, yeah? And the doctor, nothing ever changes in London.
I love that movie, too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good movie. Another Martha and the Doctor exchange I liked, where Martha says, "Thing is, though, am I missing something here? The world didn't end in 1599. It didn't. Look at me. I'm living proof." The Doctor replies, "Oh, how to explain the mechanics of the infinite temporal flux. I know. Back to the Future. It's like Back to the Future. The film? No, the novelization. Yes, the film. Marty McFly goes back and changes history." And then Martha replies, "And he starts fading away. Oh my God, am I going to fade?" The Doctor replies, "You and the entire future of the human race. It ends right now in 1599 if we don't stop it."
That was
Very
one of
nice.
mine.
Yep.
That's a great one. All right, Christine, any others?
Come on, we can all have a good flirt later. Is that a promise, Doctor? Oh, 57 academics just punched the air. I want to know who the 57 academics are.
Exactly.
So I guess it
And
is
how did
a-
he come up with that number?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
like, does he
guess-
have like 57 academics that he goes on,
Yeah.
has on standby or something when he has a problem with this?
Well, they have a chat room.
There you
Yes.
go. That's it.
So I guess it is a discussion, a theory that Shakespeare, if not gay, was bisexual. And so that's where that came from. And so I thought that was interesting because, I don't follow that enough. But,
Oh, come on. It's the theater.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
They
I
have
was-
men
Yeah,
dressing
you-
as women.
You're on the road,
Yeah.
there's time to kill, things happen.
So
you know.
I was
We're not
confused.
judgmental.
Yeah, no, I was confused when I heard that. So I had to look it up. But yes, great quote. This is, I love William Shakespeare saying, "How can a man so young have eyes so old?" And the Doctor just lasted off saying, "I do a lot of reading." And I love the insightfulness of Shakespeare, and I also, the Doctor kind of turning it away is so very much the Doctor.
Very nice. All right. I don't have any more because both of you took two of my quotes, so
Okay.
I'm fresh out. So, Christine, if you have any more, you want to go ahead?
Well, I'll follow up Jesse's quote with what I think is right after that. And he says, "All the world's a stage." I might use that.
That's a good one. That's a great one. All right. We could probably do quotes all night, I would think,
Yes.
on this. So we should probably move on. But unless you have any really great ones you want
Yes,
to,
anyone you
wanna
definitely
bring-
want to give up, you want to share,
before we move
Christine?
on, one last good one.
Oh, see, now you're going to make me pick.
Yeah, that's the pressure.
Okay. This one. All right.
All right.
Cigarettes. Nice word. I'll have that off you as well. I should be on 10%.
Yes, that's very
Yeah,
nice.
cigarettes. That seems a little familiar. Like, say, the Christmas Invasion,
Yes.
where they
Ah,
Yeah.
Was,
I knew I should have known it. I had just done a rewatch, but they weren't close enough for me to remember.
Yep, that was the bad guys in the
It did look like a cigarette skull.
cigarettes. Yep, That's where the inspiration was from. So, yep.
That was a very inside baseball quote, and I liked it.
Yeah, definitely.
Good.
All right. So let's move on to episodes ratings. And this is on a 10-point scale. So, Jesse, why don't you give us your rating, and then we'll go to Christine.
So I love this episode. I realize that in the Doctor Who canon, there is no overall, this doesn't add to the mythos that much, but just as far as a wonderful adventure with my favorite Doctor and my favorite companion, so I gave it 9 out of 10 blank psychic papers.
Nice.
Lovely.
All right, Christine, what's your rating?
Well, I love the episode in general. I don't think most of the episodes really contribute to an overall myth arc. If they have an overall plot line for the season, it's usually just like a name drop, and then we move on, and then like it comes to something later.
Right.
So I don't look for that in my Doctor Who episodes.
Which is kind of the great thing about Doctor Who, because you can jump in at any time and start watching.
Absolutely.
Yep.
The only problems I have with the episodes, problem I have with all of the Martha episodes, is the way that the Doctor treats her. Like, she's the rebound girl. So without that, this episode would be a 10. So that brought the episode down to 8.5 borrowed quotes.
Oh, nice.
Very nice. So, Christine, we're in sync on this one, because I also gave it 8.5. I gave it 8.5 crystal balls with Carianites inside.
Yay.
That's a lot of crystal balls.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Well, you could shake them up like snow globes, too. That would be great. And then the Carianites inside are going, screaming. All right. So, but generally, obviously, we all like that one. So that's cool. Next on our agenda of doom.
I am guessing you have a reverse of polarity for us.
Well, that would be next on the agenda of doom. Yes. We shall do that. So I'll try and get through this one quick. I know we're running long, but so I'm going to reverse the polarity back to 1982 with The Visitation. And this is the 4th serial of season 19 in 1982, written by Eric Saward. And this is a 5th Doctor Peter Davison story. So, David Tennant's father-in-law, because did the ultimate fanboy move and married into Peter Davison's family. So he inside the TARDIS in the story, Tegan, the 5th Doctor's companion, is hoping to land back at Heathrow Airport shortly after Tegan left to join the Doctor back in her first episode in Logopolis. And the Doctor's trying to get her back to her normal time, but of course it's the TARDIS, doesn't quite go so well. Tegan and Nyssa join the 5th Doctor and Adric in the console room to find out they've landed in Heathrow, but in 1666. And the four quickly go outside, smell some sulfur, and head off to find the source. They're attacked by villagers, but escape. And Richard Mace, a highwayman and proclaimed thespian, so we have a little acting involved in this story, encounter the group and take them safely inside a barn. And while questioning Mace, they learn that some kind of comet landed nearby. The Doctor realizes it was no comet and takes immediate interest in the necklace that Mace is wearing, which is actually a bracelet used for prisoner control. And the group finds some power packs nearby in the barn that realized that there were some survivors from that. And they go to the nearby manor of the person who owns the barn, but nobody answers the front door. And while searching the manor, they find some more power packs, gunpowder, and a mark from a high-energy weapon. And ultimately, this all leads to finding out that the survivor was, in fact, an alien known as a pteroleptal. And the pteroleptal, his plan, he's not looking to just kind of get some help and rescued. No, he essentially wants to get a hold of the rats and cause a big plague so that everybody will get infected and sick and die, and then he can take over. So, because that's as you do. That's as far as alien villain plans. It's all right. Not the greatest, but not the worst I've seen on this show.
Maybe the grossest.
It is the grossest, yes. So the Doctor ends up, of course, confronting the pteroleptal, offers to take him off Earth, but hey, it's rejected because the pteroleptal's like, dude, I'm going to take over. I don't need to go anywhere. And he's got himself like a robot henchman and essentially tries to kidnaps a couple of the Doctor's companions, mind controls them to do his bidding for a brief time, but the Doctor frees them, and they ultimately track the pteroleptal down in London, where the pteroleptal is about to unleash his plan, and there's a couple other pteroleptals there who kind of get the jump on the Doctor and Mace. They stop them, but the pteroleptal's leader's weapon starts to overload, detonates. The resulting explosion destroys the building and starts a raging fire. And Mace stays behind to fight the blaze as the Doctor, Tegan, Nyssa, and Adric leave in the TARDIS. And as the TARDIS disappears, it's revealed that the fire is at Pudding Lane, the location where the Great Fire of London started. So apparently the Doctor is kind of responsible for the Great Fire of London.
Not the first fire. Well, not the only fire he was responsible for.
No. So, unfortunately there's not a Shakespeare episode, but if you're kind of in the mood for something in the past that's kind of in that vague from the classic era, I definitely recommend checking this out.
I enjoyed the sheer amount of times you had to say pteroleptal.
Yeah, it's tricky, but
absolutely well done, sir. As always,
it's not my first rodeo.
Yeah.
Pteroleptal. And Davison's my Doctor, so that's easy.
Hey,
so,
Charles, do we have feedback?
Jesse, I believe we do. We have some feedback from our regular listeners, Holly from Wisconsin and Paul from Australia.
Hi, Holly. She says hi to us all the time.
Oh, does she?
Oh, yeah.
That's cool. So she's cheating on our podcast. I don't know how I feel about that.
Oh, or she might be that she was with us first. American Gods first.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Either way, we love Holly. So
yes,
it's a nice idea. Yeah. I think she was here first.
Yeah. So that's cool with me. We dig her, and we appreciate her always writing in. So Holly Mack writes, "Hello all. I forgot that I really enjoyed this episode when it first came out. The Doctor quoting lines of Shakespeare that Shakespeare hadn't written yet had me chuckling. Love the nods to J.K. Rowling. The twist on the three fates was enjoyable too. I don't blame Martha for asking the Doctor when they first land if she'll be safe in the time period they landed in. Safety first and then adventures. The rapport between the Doctor and Shakespeare was good. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin." So a pretty quick one, but thank you, Holly.
Thank you,
Charles,
as always.
I'm gonna do my mistress of correction thing, and it is pronounced rolling, like bowling.
Oh, I thought it was Rowling. Okay.
No, it's a common mistake amongst Americans. I don't know why, because we have this word called bowling that seems to be a very American thing.
Unfortunately, we also have this word called howling, which is kind of also in the same. Yeah, but, even though
ours look more like B's than they do H's. But I listened to a few Harry Potter podcasts, and one of them actually had her on there, and they've continued to use her.
It's Rowling, yeah.
Yeah, they continue to use her introduction all the time, and she says, "My name is J.K. Rowling," and so it's ingrained in my head how it's pronounced. So that's I appreciate all of these listeners. Yeah, all of these listeners are now going to pronounce her name correctly. I'm going to spread it across America.
Good for you.
There you go.
Thank you, Holly, for your email. It's nice to hear from you. You're right, safety first. I enjoyed that opening conversation Martha had before really getting into the past.
All right, Jesse, do you have Paul's?
I do not.
Oh, well, I guess I'm reading that one as well. Yes. All right. We're so professional here. All right. So Paul from Australia writes in, "Hi, Charles and Jesse. I really like this episode." A lot of that going around. "It's always fun to see new companions' reaction to traveling with the Doctor, and Martha is no exception. Even though she is almost hit by a bucket of waste, That's a kind word for that. On arrival in London 1599, he quotes, "I've seen worse at work," she says. She is full of such joy and questions about the cause and effect of time travel, which I suppose you would have in her shoes. Always fun to see companions trying to wrap their heads around the wonders they see. I always liked that the Doctor used the Back to the Future movies as a way of explaining time travel consequences. Well, that's more for the audience, so we don't get lost, or at least people that aren't time travel buffs like yours truly don't get lost. So, but it always helps. As for the story itself, it's great fun if you are a Shakespeare fan, with lots of in-jokes, such as Shakespeare flirting with the Doctor, and the Doctor says 57 academics just punched the air. Very funny. Also, Martha trying to talk Shakespeare when she first meets him, and the Doctor going, no, no, no. Love it. So, did you like that moment as well?
I did. I was going to say
barely,
that. Yeah,
forsooth, egads.
I love.
Stop. Just stop.
You know, it's something that happens all the time, but I love when they do that. Like, no, just shaking their head.
It happens.
No,
Actually, it's once with each of Tennant's companions. I think Rose tried to do a Scottish accent when they met Queen Victoria, and then there was Martha trying to speak Shakespearean, and Donna, what did she say? I forgot what Donna's was, but she did one too. All I can think of is when she. I
think it was when she was like trying to speak Roman.
No. That one he encouraged, because he actually had no clue what would happen if she actually spoke the language when it was translating automatically, which was interesting because it came out Celtic to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure about it either, but I'm sure.
I think. Oh, I think it was when they met Agatha Christie, another author.
Right.
And she tried to be like, cheerio, pip pip, or something like that.
Well, see, that would make sense because Gareth Roberts also wrote that episode, so he probably recycled the gag.
Yeah.
Because he wrote it. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so Paul continues, I like the Carrier Knights as the villains and the use of words as their way of unlocking the tide of blood. Such a modern take on witches' mythology. Overall, this was a fun episode, an episode that shows the Doctor still pining for Rose. Poor Martha, I know, right? I love the ending with Queen Elizabeth I. That will be explained years later. Oh, we didn't talk about that, did we? Hope you enjoyed this story, too. Kindest regards, Paul. P.S. Who are the Eternals that are mentioned? Have we heard of them before? If so, where? It rings a bell. And P.S.S. Once again, I look forward to hearing where we are going next. So, the Eternals. I thought I wrote down the notes of this. Probably didn't.
I don't recall hearing the Eternals.
Well, I think it's from the original series. So
no, I mean I don't recall hearing it mentioned.
I think it was. I want to say it was when the Doctor was basically threatening the Carrionites, and he's bringing up some references, I think.
See, I'll have to rewatch for the 5th time.
Gee darn. So, yeah. Oh no, I have to watch David Tennant again. Oh no. But
oh dear me, what shall I do?
All right, Paul, I'm gonna have to look that one up because I forgot to put it in here.
Charles, you fail.
I did. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. But sadly, I forgot. But great point about talking about the Queen Elizabeth I, because we didn't talk about that.
No, we did not.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's obviously teased at the end of the episode where, Queen Elizabeth shows up, not too happy with the Doctor. The Doctor doesn't know why. And then Queen Elizabeth orders her guards to go after the Doctor. They end up firing some arrows into his TARDIS. And, that's not cool. It's like, the TARDIS.
She even says off with his head.
Right. It's like all of a sudden, she's turned into the Red Queen from Alice in Wonderland.
Is that a thing? Are we doing that now?
Apparently. So, obviously, we find out later in the 50th anniversary story, The Day of the Doctor, we finally got an explanation because the Doctor actually married Queen Elizabeth, as we find out. She was one of his wives. And although occasionally confused with the Zygon at the time. But,
Did
that happened.
he actually go through with the marriage? I know he proposed to her.
As far as I understand, he counts as one, because they say that the Doctor had 4 wives, and apparently she counts as one of the wives.
And remember, we later get the on the giant whale episode where where
the Beast Below?
Yeah, where they go, oh, Virgin Queen, not so much, so they talk about that. Yes.
So that was good. Let's see what else.
Is that why she never married? Because in fact she was married.
Yeah, maybe.
She just couldn't tell anybody.
Yeah,
because he disappeared.
It was a secret marriage, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, she couldn't really back it up, could she?
Yeah.
It's like, where's your husband? Well, he's kind of tied up traveling through time and space. Sure, right,
It's
whatever.
a good enough excuse for me. I mean,
Yeah,
she's
exactly.
queen, accept it.
Yep. So, all right. So, next time on Next Stop Everywhere, we are going to talk about, and I'm hoping you're okay with this, Jesse. We're going to talk about Infamy of the Zeros, which is the first Big Finish audio adventure from the second series of 10th Doctor adventures, starring David Tennant and Billy Piper, reprising their roles as the 10th Doctor and Rose Tyler.
Ooh, that'll be
And,
fun.
yeah, yours truly got his hands on those, so apparently I have to make a special discussion copy for Jesse so that
Yes.
he can review those.
Mhm.
Yeah, Jesse's really upset about that.
Yeah,
An archival
exactly.
copy, yeah. But yeah, so, and especially after meeting Tennant, I was just like, well, yeah, this is perfect timing. So we're going to talk some more Tennant, if you're okay with that, Jesse.
That's perfect. I always love, and we get a lot of nice feedback that we do the Big Finish audios. Always get a little bit of love from that.
Well, we did a little variety here because we've talked a lot about episodes, old and new, lately. So it's been a while since we've talked about Big Finish audio adventures, and I haven't listened to these yet, so I'm dying to.
All right.
And so we'll both come at them pretty fresh. So I'm looking forward to that.
Good.
So we'll talk about that next time.
All right.
And I'm excited to hear the podcast when it comes out.
Yay.
Well, we need to have you back, Christine, because I loved having you on the show today.
Yes.
Aw.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You're welcome.
You're making us
anytime.
look bad. I'm going to have to, I'm feeling like you need to be here instead of me.
Oh God, no. You know way more about this than I do. And you know what? We'll wait to hear what the listeners have to say about this.
There you go.
Okay, there you go, listeners.
There
Well,
you go.
Charles.
Thumbs
if
up or
someone
thumbs down.
Yes, if someone wants to tell us how wonderful Christine is, how could they?
Well, there's a way to do that, of course. You can reach us at Next Stop Everywhere SMG. Don't forget the SMG because it's not long enough. At gmail.com. And you can email us there just like Holly and Paul did. So we obviously will definitely get that. And we will read your letters on the podcast. So exciting, I know. Otherwise, you can reach us on the Twitter machine at NextStopSMG. And again, don't forget the SMG. On our Facebook page, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, where we're at 195, closing in on the mighty 200 of likes. So just need 5 more. Come on, everybody, help us out. And Jesse, where on the interwebs can they find you?
By the way, I did want to go that we are up to 32 ratings.
Yes.
With
Ooh.
22 reviews on iTunes. Would love to reach past 40. That would just be awesome. So
Hopefully you enjoy the show. So yeah, please.
Yes, 5 stars, nothing but love.
If you don't, that's cool. We want, we're all about the honesty here. So,
Yes, absolutely.
but hopefully you like our show and like what we're doing.
Yes. I can be reached on Twitter at Jesse Jackson DFW. If you want to hear me rant about Bruce Springsteen and other stuff, I'm on Set Listing Bruce, podcast on this fine network. If you are just catching up on American Gods, let's say you are binge watching it, you can hear Christine I Shannon and Wendy on Roadside Attractions on this network, where we covered American Gods and discussed each episode. And also, if you are in a rewatching of Game of Thrones, The Small Council Matters, we have discussed 3 or 4 seasons, Christine?
What? Small Council of Game of Thrones, we have discussed 7 seasons.
Okay.
7.
2, 7, same
Yeah.
difference.
Well, it was hard to. We.
Season 1 was a little weird. We that was a post-season 1 where
Okay.
and not everybody was on every episode, but I think by the time we got to season 2, it was all of us.
Yes, so we can check that. So, so that's how you can find me. Christine, how about you?
Well, Jesse mentioned our other podcasts that we host, but you can also follow my motion graphics work on Vimeo and Facebook at Christine Peruski. I'm also on Twitter at C_Peruski.
Very nice.
Nice.
So yeah, please, I'm gonna have to follow you now because you're awesome.
Yeah, isn't
Well,
she?
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not very active on Twitter, sad to say.
Oh, we need to change that.
Yeah.
I'll try.
All right. Yeah. As for me, I'm Charles Skaggs on the Twitter machine, at Charles Skaggs on the Instagram, Google Plus for all you crazy kids in the Google Plus. Shout out to Karen, and Facebook at Charles Skaggs, and my blog of geeky things. If I can get the thing to work in here, come on, you.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the things we talk about here on Next Stop Everywhere. Doctor Who, sci-fi goodness, comic book goodness, and of course my other podcast for the Southgate Media Group, Titan Talk, the Titans podcast that I do with a certain Jesse Jackson, who's not paying attention right now.
I am listening. Titan Talk. I was hoping you were going to bring it up. We have had 3 episodes. We are getting a little bit of notice. I am hoping some former Titan Talkers will join us. We are going to record another episode soon where we talk a couple of classic Titan storylines.
Yep. And we got some new news on the upcoming Titans TV series for the DC Comics digital service, which is coming out later in the fall. So please check that out. We're just kind of getting it off the ground. So any help you could provide would be great. Let everybody know if they're looking forward to that. Otherwise, you can reach me on my other 2 podcasts, the Fandom Zone podcast, where I talk comic book television shows with Karen Lindsay, friend of the show, and we cover all the comic book shows that are on TV for the week and do our reviews. And also Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast that I did with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, where we talk about, of course, all things Twin Peaks. So thanks, everybody, for checking those out. And thank you, Christine, for joining us on the podcast. You're more than welcome to come back. If we haven't
Thank you
scared
for
you
having
away.
me.
Yes. No, this was wonderful, Christine. I knew you would be a great contributor, and you did not. You lived up to my expectations and, in fact, exceeded it. So
We even ran an
anytime.
extra half an hour long for you, because we normally do this in an hour. So
I'm sorry about that.
no, it's not you, it's us.
No, I will tell you,
Making me
Charles-
blush.
Charles, we once had an hour and a half Game of Thrones episode, about a 10-minute preview. It's like, how could we talk an hour and a half about a 10-minute teaser? But so yes, I think Christine and I will take it this time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I now want, whether you're going to join us or not, we should email you the topics and you could record it and send it to us so we can insert it. Because that just was wonderful. Okay.
Well, remember
I'll
that
be happy to.
We have to pay her. She's a professional.
Yes, she is. Yeah.
We have to get, slip her a few.
Yes.
Oh, you know what?
Yes.
Yeah, one more shameless plug.
Got
Because
to
you
get paid, yo.
Yeah, you brought up the professional, only semi-professional. I have recorded an audiobook, the female voices for the audiobook, and that is a steampunk novel called Tales of the Airship Neverland.
Ooh.
And yes, the audiobook's out there for purchase, as well as the book itself. And I think you can get that on Audible. And we are currently working on the prequel, which is called Fairy Dust Never Rusts.
Ooh.
That's a good title.
That's a really good title.
I like that.
Nice.
All right. Definitely have to check that out.
Yes,
So,
please do.
okay. All right. So thanks, everybody, for listening. And
I have two
Jesse,
quotes.
do we have a quote? All right.
I have two quotes.
Hit me.
One, because as we were discussing this, Christine said that she was glad there were no song lyrics, so she didn't have to sing. So therefore, I had to pull out Einstein and Shakespeare sitting having a beer. Einstein trying to figure out the number that adds to this. Shakespeare says, man, it all starts with a kiss. Einstein is scratching numbers on his napkin. Shakespeare said, man, it's just 1 and 1 makes 3, and that's why it's poetry.
And what's Bruce Springsteen's song is that from?
Frankie Fell in Love.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
All right.
So I thought, perfect. But from
Not
the
that I know
doctor-
you or anything.
Yes. You wanted
right.
advice, you said? I never give it. Never. But I might just say this to you. Always search for truth. My truth is in the stars, and yours is here.
Excellent.
And I think right now we should all be searching for truth.
Sounds like a great idea. So thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time for episode 108 right here. Infamy of the Zaros. Come on back. It's going to be good. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Einstein and Shakespeare.